Hey guys, it's Jeff Quiane. I'm excited to be with you today to go over expert knowledge, processes, and procedures. And you can see here, there's a list from top to bottom, what those procedures are and what the correct order of them is, starting on the salesperson side with pre-approach and going all the way down to follow-up. Not to be overlooked on the prospects procedures side, it starts with getting their attention and ends with getting them to take action. So let's not forget that this particular part of the expert knowledge training is about processes and procedures. And it's important that you recognize what those processes are for you, what those processes are for your prospect. We start to really go through each one of these processes step by step. And it starts with the pre-approach. So the pre-approach is everything that's involved prior to you engaging with the prospect. It's the planning and the preparation that a professional salesperson needs to complete before he or she can effectively approach a prospect. So I want you to think for a minute what that is for you. Before you can approach a prospect about purchasing their home or selling their home, what is it that you need to do? Now that you've thought about that for a minute, let's write some things up here on the board and see what we come up with. So what are we talking about here? The pre-approach part of your process. So let's walk through a couple things that would fall into that category of pre-approach. So how about practicing your scripts? Before we can get on the phone and be successful talking to anybody, we got to know what to say. So practicing our scripts would be one of those things that would fall under pre-approach. How about getting the data? Getting the leads. If we don't have the data, we don't have the leads, we can't call anybody. That's as simple as using the link that's in your Kinderies University account and signing up for RedX so that on a daily basis you have access to expireds and for sale by owners, for instance. So part of the pre-approach is making sure that I have that data. What about my CRM? And making sure that that is customized to your needs. Making sure that it's segmented, that leads are categorized by source, that you've used tags, groups, and anything else that's available to its full capability so that you can prioritize and segment the people that are in your database. You don't want to start out, if you don't have to, by just dumping stuff in there. So at the front end in our pre-approach, getting our CRM and our database set up, getting one if you don't have one, is the first step. But getting it set up and customized is part of that pre-approach. In addition, what else would be part of the pre-approach, guys? What about marketing material? So making sure that my tear sheets are printed and ready to go if I'm going to send those out as part of my nurturing process after I make contact. Making sure I have thank you cards so that everybody that I put into my pipeline I can send a thank you card out to. Having my white papers printed so that I can stick those in a clear U-line envelope that triggers them to want to engage and consume it when they see it on their doorstep or in their mailbox. Having all that stuff ready to go is part of nailing the pre-approach. So, we talked about a few tangible or hard marketing assets. What about your email campaigns? Email campaign. So having all of that pre-written out is nailing the pre-approach. What's the email that you're going to send immediately after talking to a qualified buyer or a qualified seller? What's the next 7 touches look like? Whether it's a text, an email, a scheduled task for you to reach back out to them. But any of those email campaigns, or as a whole, any of those nurture campaigns are nailing the pre-approach, having that stuff all pre-designed so that when I talk to somebody, once I do finally pick up the phone or I finally engage with somebody, that when I do come across opportunities, I can immediately put them into a plan that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for me, right? What about a dialer? Part of the pre-approach would be making sure that you have the technology and the tools to get the best return out of the time that you spend doing that activity. So something like a dialer might make sense, whether it's an integrated dialer with whatever the system here is that you're using, or it's a standalone dialer like a Mojo. If you're going to be making a lot of phone calls, it makes sense to invest a little bit of money into the right technology like a dialer. So there's a few things to nail the pre-approach. I'd suggest that you add on to this list. Make it part of the culture and the onboarding process and the training process for anybody on your team to start thinking about what's involved in that pre-approach. Now let's get back to the training. So that's the pre-approach. It's very important. Without nailing the pre-approach, everything else that we do afterwards is at risk. So remember, the pre-approach is the planning and the preparation that you as a professional salesperson needs to go through in order to be effective when you approach a prospect. And you've got a list now, if you followed the instructions when we took a moment to think about it, and we compiled a list together here. And so you should be pretty clear on the pre-approach. One of the things that I would suggest that's part of that pre-approach process is to spend some time to get to know your competition. What is your competition doing that you are not?